In the vast expanse of the known universe, a peculiar truth had emerged that shocked the galactic community: Earth was classified as the most hazardous planet ever discovered. Not because of its natural disasters or wildlife, but because of its inhabitants' remarkable ability to survive against all odds. The story begins with Dr. Chen, a respected xenobiologist from the Centauri Science Academy. She had spent 15 years studying Earth from the safety of orbital stations, fascinated by how humans continued to thrive on a planet that should have destroyed them centuries ago. "The readings must be wrong," she muttered to herself, adjusting her holographic displays. The data showed that humans had survived multiple extinction-level events, adapted to every climate on their planet, and developed resistance to countless diseases. It defied everything she knew about species evolution. Her research partner, Officer Kumar from Earth's Global Defense Force, floated nearby in the zero-gravity chamber. "You still can't believe it, can you?" he asked with a slight smile, his weathered face reflecting years of service protecting Earth's orbital territories. Dr. Chen shook her head, her silver-streaked hair drifting in the weightlessness. "Your species shouldn't exist, Kumar. Do you realize that Earth has more natural disasters in a single year than most habitable planets experience in a century? The gravitational force alone should have limited your physical development, yet humans keep getting stronger." Kumar chuckled, remembering his childhood in the Himalayan valleys. "We adapt. It's what we do best." He gestured toward the blue planet below them, its surface a swirling canvas of white clouds and azure oceans. "Look at our cities. We built them in deserts, on mountains, even under the sea. When nature pushes, we push back." Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent alert. The station's AI detected unusual seismic activity in the Pacific Ring of Fire. Dr. Chen quickly pulled up the data, her eyes widening as she processed the information. "This is impossible. The entire ring is becoming active simultaneously." Kumar's expression turned serious as he accessed his tactical displays. "Not impossible. Just rare. It happened before, about 200 years ago. We lost some cities, but we rebuilt. We always do." As they watched, the first waves of evacuation ships began rising from coastal cities around the Pacific. It was a sight that would have terrified most species, but for humans, it was almost routine. The ships carried millions of people to safer ground, their movements coordinated with practiced precision. "Look at them," Dr. Chen whispered, amazement clear in her voice. "No panic. No chaos. Just, organized survival." Kumar nodded proudly. "We learned the hard way that panic kills more than disasters. Every child on Earth grows up knowing their evacuation protocols. It's as natural as learning to walk." The next few hours were a testament to human resilience. As earthquakes shook entire continents and tsunami warnings blared across oceans, Earth's population moved like a well-oiled machine. Underground shelters activated, coastal barriers rose from the seas, and weather control stations worked overtime to minimize storm damage. Dr. Chen watched in fascination as her instruments recorded everything. "Your people treat global catastrophes like minor inconveniences. Do you realize how extraordinary that is?" Kumar shrugged, but his eyes showed pride. "When you live on a planet that tries to kill you every few years, you either learn to dance with danger or you perish. We chose to dance." As night fell over the Pacific, the seismic activity began to subside. Cities glowed like constellations on Earth's surface, their lights a defiant statement against the darkness. Damage reports started coming in, some coastal infrastructure destroyed, a few small islands temporarily submerged, but minimal loss of life. "Another day on the most dangerous world in the universe," Kumar said with a hint of irony. "Tomorrow, we'll start rebuilding. By next week, tourists will be back on their beach holidays." Dr. Chen continued updating her research notes, adding to the already massive file about human resilience. You know what makes Earth truly dangerous? She asked, not looking up from her work. It's not the disasters, the gravity, or even the extreme weather. It's how it shaped its inhabitants. Humans don't just survive here, you thrive on challenge. You've turned adaptation into an art form. Kumar moved toward the observation window, watching rescue ships returning to their bases. Maybe that's why we've never found another species quite like us. Other worlds might be kinder to their children, but Earth taught us to be unbreakable. As the immediate crisis passed, Dr. Chen found herself contemplating the broader implications of her research. Earth's classification as the most dangerous world wasn't just about its hostile environment, it was a recognition of how that environment had forged humanity into something unique in the universe. The space station continued its orbit, passing over cities rebuilding from the day's events. Below them, millions of people were already returning to their homes, sharing meals, telling stories, and preparing for whatever challenge Earth would throw at them next. It was just another day on humanity's homeworld, where danger and resilience danced an eternal dance. Kumar checked his tactical displays one final time before preparing for his shift change. You know what's funny, Dr. Chen? Most species look at Earth and see a death trap. We look at it and see home. Maybe that's the real danger we pose to the universe. We've learned to love what should destroy us. As the story of that day became another entry in Earth's long history of survival, one thing became clear: on a planet where every day could bring a new catastrophe, humanity had turned survival into their greatest strength. And perhaps that was why Earth, despite all its dangers, remained the most fascinating world in the known universe. The discovery that would shake the foundations of galactic understanding began in the most unlikely of places, a kindergarten classroom in New Shanghai's underwater district. Dr. Chen had insisted on visiting the surface despite Kumar's concerns about her alien physiology adapting to Earth's gravity. She needed to understand how humans prepared their youngest for life on this lethal world. The classroom, housed within a reinforced transparent dome 50 meters beneath the East China Sea, was filled with 5-year-olds learning about their environment through interactive holograms. "And what do we do when we hear the pressure warning?" asked Teacher Patel, her voice gentle but firm as she guided her young students through their daily safety drills. "Check our suits. Help our friends. Follow the blue lights," the children chorused, their faces bright with the certainty of well-practiced knowledge. Dr. Chen noticed how they treated these survival protocols like a game, yet their movements showed perfect precision. The scene was interrupted by a real alert, not from the dome's pressure systems, but from above. A Category 6 hypercane was forming over the Pacific, its wind speeds already exceeding 400 kilometers per hour. What fascinated Dr. Chen wasn't the approaching storm, but how calmly everyone responded. Teacher Patel clapped her hands twice. "All right, children. Remember our storm song?" The kids immediately formed a line, singing about safety procedures as they moved toward the deeper shelter levels. Their parents would find them there after work, just as they had during dozens of previous storms. "This is what I couldn't understand from orbit," Dr. Chen told Kumar as they followed the group. "You don't just survive here, you've turned survival into culture. These children are learning to live with dangers that would drive other species to extinction." Kumar nodded, watching as maintenance bots reinforced the dome's structural integrity. "We learned long ago that fear is contagious, but so is courage. Teach them young enough, and facing Earth's challenges becomes as natural as breathing." The hypercane arrived with devastating force, but New Shanghai's underwater districts merely shifted their dome configurations, allowing the worst of the storm to pass harmlessly overhead. In the shelter, children continued their lessons, now learning about the storm's wind patterns through interactive displays. Dr. Chen's attention was drawn to a small girl who was helping a classmate adjust his safety harness. "What's your name?" she asked, kneeling despite the strain of Earth's gravity. "May," the child replied without hesitation, showing none of the fear most species displayed when meeting an alien for the first time. Would you like to learn our storm song too? It helps remember the important parts. Before Dr. Chen could respond, her environmental sensors began beeping urgently. The storm had triggered something unexpected. A massive underwater landslide was heading toward the city. Kumar immediately accessed his tactical displays, but the children remained surprisingly calm. Teacher Patel's voice rang out clear and strong. "Class, let's show our guest the shifting seas protocol. Remember your partner system." The children paired up efficiently, each duo checking their partner's equipment before moving to designated positions. What happened next left Dr. Chen speechless. The entire underwater district began to move. Massive hydraulic systems, controlled by quantum computers and reinforced by human operators, shifted the entire city structure away from the landslide's path. "Your children." Dr. Chen struggled to find words as she watched Mei help guide younger students through breathing exercises. "They're not just surviving. They're thriving in conditions that should be traumatizing." Kumar smiled, monitoring the city's movement through his neural interface. "That's the secret that makes Earth so dangerous to the rest of the universe. We stopped seeing survival as something extraordinary and started seeing it as an opportunity to grow stronger." The landslide roared past their new position, its sensors providing data for future safety improvements. In the shelter, children had started drawing pictures of the event, turning a potential catastrophe into art. Some were already asking questions about the physics of underwater landslides, their natural curiosity undimmed by danger. "Look at their drawings," Dr. Chen said, examining the artwork being created around her. "Other species' children draw houses, families, toys. Yours draw escape routes, safety systems, and emergency procedures, but with the same joy." Teacher Patel joined their conversation, her tablet displaying the day's adjusted lesson plan. "We learned generations ago that fear isn't eliminated by hiding from danger, it's transformed by understanding it. Every challenge Earth presents becomes a lesson, every threat an opportunity to improve." As the storm continued above, the children began presenting their drawings, explaining their ideas for new safety features. One suggested gardens that could be quickly converted into emergency food storage. Another had designed a communication system using bioluminescent algae as backup power. "This is why Earth is classified as the most dangerous world," Dr. Chen realized, watching the impromptu presentations. "Not because of its natural hazards, but because it created a species that turns every disaster into an advantage. You're teaching your children to see opportunities where others see only threats." The day's events would later become part of the children's educational records, not as a trauma to be processed, but as a practical lesson in physics, engineering, and community cooperation. In the underwater classroom of New Shanghai, humanity's unique relationship with danger was being passed to the next generation, ensuring that Earth would remain both the most dangerous and most resilient world in the known universe. As the hypercane finally began to dissipate, Mei approached Dr. Chen with a drawing. It showed the alien scientist singing the storm song with the class, a simple yet powerful symbol of how humanity's approach to survival could be shared with the galaxy. Perhaps, Dr. Chen realized, that was the most dangerous thing about Earth. It didn't just create survivors, it created teachers who could show the rest of the universe how to dance with danger. The desert city of New Phoenix rose from the scorched earth like a mirage, its thermal shields reflecting the brutal Arizona sun. At ground level, the temperature had reached 57 degrees Celsius, hot enough to cook an egg on the sand. Yet inside the city's climate-controlled bounds, life flourished in ways that defied explanation. Dr. Chen had chosen this location for the next phase of her research, despite Kumar's warnings about the extreme heat. "If you want to understand Earth's dangers," he had told her, "there's no better place than a city that burns and rebuilds itself every summer." They stood in the city's agricultural dome, where vertical farms stretched toward the reinforced ceiling. Around them, desert-adapted plants thrived in carefully maintained hydroponic systems, their roots drawing moisture from the air itself. But it wasn't the technology that caught Dr. Chen's attention, it was the people. A young botanist approached them, her hands covered in soil despite the automated farming systems surrounding them. "Welcome to Operation Phoenix," she said, introducing herself as Dr. Aisha. "We're preparing for the burning season." Kumar checked his environmental readouts. "It's early this year. The thermal warnings are already in the red zone." Dr. Aisha nodded, leading them through rows of experimental crops. "Earth keeps trying to outpace our adaptations. Last year's heat shields barely held. This year, we're trying something new." She gestured to what looked like ordinary desert flowers growing alongside the food crops. "These blooms don't just survive the heat, they thrive on it. We've modified our city's biomechanical systems to learn from their cellular structure." As they walked, Dr. Chen noticed something peculiar about the city's residents. Unlike the underwater communities of New Shanghai, where people moved with fluid grace, the citizens of New Phoenix had a different kind of strength about them. Their movements were deliberate, conserving energy, yet their eyes held an intensity that spoke of unshakable determination. "The desert teaches patience," Dr. Aisha explained, noticing Dr. Chen's observation. "Out here, rushing means death. We learn to move with purpose, to find strength in stillness." Their tour was interrupted by a familiar sound, warning sirens. But these were different from the storm alerts of New Shanghai. The sound had a deeper, more primal quality to it. "Thermal surge," Kumar explained, his tactical display lighting up with warning indicators. "The shield wall is detecting temperatures beyond its normal operating range." Dr. Aisha remained calm, activating her neural interface. "Right on schedule. Everyone, initiation positions." Her voice carried across the agricultural dome, triggering a well-rehearsed response from her team. What happened next demonstrated why Earth truly deserved its dangerous reputation. Instead of retreating to bunkers or activating emergency protocols, the citizens of New Phoenix began what could only be described as a heat harvest. Massive thermal collectors extended from the city's shield wall, their surfaces shimming with next-generation metamaterials. The deadly heat that should have devastated the city was instead being channeled, redirected, and repurposed. "Watch," Dr. Aisha said with pride, pointing to the experimental garden section. The desert flowers were beginning to glow, their petals absorbing the excess heat and converting it into usable energy. "Life adapts. We learned that from Earth itself." Dr. Chen's scientific instruments were recording everything, but they couldn't capture the most remarkable aspect of the scene, the absolute conviction in the faces of New Phoenix's citizens as they worked to transform deadly conditions into a resource. "Your species continues to confound me," she admitted to Kumar as they watched the thermal harvest unfold. "Most civilizations would have abandoned these regions centuries ago. Instead, you've turned one of Earth's deadliest environments into a laboratory for survival." The next few hours revealed layers of adaptation that even Dr. Chen's advanced xenobiology training hadn't prepared her for. The city's children attended schools where heat management was taught alongside mathematics. Local fashion had evolved to include cooling systems so efficient they were being studied by off-world scientists. Even the city's architecture was alive in its own way, buildings expanding and contracting with temperature changes like the scales of a desert reptile. As the thermal surge reached its peak, Dr. Aisha led them to the city's central control room. The space hummed with activity as operators monitored every aspect of New Phoenix's environmental systems. On the main display, a real-time map showed temperature gradients in colors that would have signaled catastrophic danger anywhere else in the galaxy. "Here's what makes us different," Dr. Aisha said, pulling up historical data. "Each surge teaches us something new. We don't just survive the heat, we learn from it. Every building in New Phoenix is a data point, every citizen a researcher in the world's most extreme laboratory." Kumar added, "That's why Earth's classification as the most dangerous world isn't just about natural hazards. It's about how those hazards shaped us into something the universe had never seen before." As night fell and temperatures finally began to drop, the city's true nature revealed itself. The heat harvested during the day was powering atmospheric processors that turned the desert air into water. Gardens bloomed in impossible places. Community gatherings celebrated another successful survival with festivals that turned scientific achievement into cultural tradition. Dr. Chen found herself revising her research notes yet again. "Your people don't just adapt to survive," she told Dr. Aisha as they watched the desert stars emerge. "You rebuild reality itself until survival becomes prosperity. That's what makes Earth truly dangerous. It's a crucible that transforms its children into forces of nature." In the distance, the desert winds howled against the city's shields, carrying enough heat to melt standard spaceship hull plating. But inside New Phoenix, children were learning to read using books that explain thermal dynamics through desert fairy tales, while their parents designed the next generation of survival systems. "Tomorrow will be hotter," Dr. Aisha said, checking the forecasts. "And we'll be ready. Because that's what Earth taught us, every challenge is just another opportunity to evolve." As the night deepened, New Phoenix continued its eternal dance with the desert, its lights blazing against the darkness like a constellation of human defiance. In its streets and laboratories, homes and schools, humanity's unique relationship with danger was being refined into an art form that would eventually reshape not just Earth, but the entire understanding of what it meant to survive. The Himalayan sky bridge stretched across the roof of the world, defying both gravity and common sense. At an altitude where most species would struggle to breathe, humans had built a marvel of engineering that connected the highest peaks of Earth's most treacherous mountain range. Dr. Chen's environmental suit struggled to compensate for the extreme conditions as she and Kumar stepped onto the observation deck of Station Everest. At 8,848 meters above sea level, they watched clouds swirl beneath them while the structure swayed gently in winds that could tear apart lesser buildings. "This is madness," Dr. Chen whispered, her sensors warning of the lethal combination of altitude, cold, and low oxygen. "You built a permanent settlement in the death zone." A voice behind them responded, "Madness? We call it necessity." They turned to meet Director Raj, head of the Himalayan Climate Control Network. His weather-worn face told stories of decades spent in Earth's highest places. "Welcome to humanity's weather forge." The facility was a testament to human audacity. While other species would have avoided such extreme heights, humans had transformed the death zone into a command center for global weather manipulation. Quantum computers merged with ancient weather prediction techniques passed down through generations of mountain dwellers. "Show them the heart," Director Raj said to his team. The central chamber opened to reveal a holographic display of Earth's entire atmospheric system, swirling with data points and energy flows that looked almost alive. "Every storm on Earth is born here," he explained, gesturing to the patterns. "The Himalayas are our planet's great disrupted. We didn't choose this location for its view, we're here because this is where Earth's weather begins its dance." Dr. Chen watched in fascination as operators worked with the holographic controls, their movements precise despite the thin air. Some wore supplemental oxygen, but others had adapted to the altitude through generations of genetic modifications and natural selection. "Yesterday's hypercane in the Pacific," Kumar noted, pointing to a swirling pattern in the display. "It started here, didn't it?" Director Raj nodded. "We saw it forming 3 days before. That's why New Shanghai had time to prepare. But today..." He expanded a section of the hologram, revealing a new pattern forming over the Atlantic. "Today we're seeing something we've never recorded before." The pattern pulsed with an ominous rhythm, its energy signatures defying known atmospheric models. Dr. Chen's scientific instincts triggered warning signals in her mind. "That's impossible. The energy readings are off the scale." "Impossible is Earth's favorite challenge," Director Raj replied, his fingers dancing across control surfaces as he initiated emergency protocols. "We're looking at the birth of a hypercane that could make yesterday's storm look like a summer breeze." The next hours revealed yet another layer of humanity's unique relationship with their dangerous world. The Sky Bridges team didn't just observe weather, they engaged with it. Using a combination of atmospheric processors, ion generators, and something they called wind shepherding, they began to work with the forming storm. Most species run from such forces, Director Raj explained as his team worked. We learned to dance with them instead. Watch. Through the massive windows, Dr. Chen witnessed something extraordinary. Massive energy collectors extended from the sky bridge, reaching into the storm clouds like fingers into clay. They weren't trying to stop the hypercane, they were sculpting it. The storm wants to form, a young operator explained, her hands moving through the holographic controls with practiced grace. So we give it a path of least resistance, but one that serves our purposes. Dr. Chen's scientific training struggled to process what she was seeing. You're not just predicting weather, you're collaborating with it. Exactly, Director Raj smiled. Earth taught us that fighting nature is futile. But working with it, understanding its rhythms and needs? That's how we survived. The storm gets to be a storm, but on our terms. The demonstration of this philosophy came as they watched the potential hypercane split into several smaller, manageable storms. Each new weather system was carefully guided toward areas that needed rain, while the destructive energy was dispersed harmlessly into the upper atmosphere. Look at the pattern, Kumar pointed out. They're using the storm's own energy to power the atmospheric processors. It's not just prevention, it's transformation. A sudden tremor ran through the sky bridge, causing Dr. Chen to grab a support rail. Director Raj remained steady, checking readings on his neural interface. Earthquake down below. Don't worry, this structure is designed to flex. The next revelation came when Dr. Chen noticed something peculiar about the facility's younger staff. They moved with an unusual grace, their bodies seemingly unaffected by the extreme altitude. Natural adaptation, Director Raj explained, noting her interest. Some of our people have lived at this height for generations. Their bodies have changed, denser capillary networks, enhanced oxygen processing, stronger heart muscles. Earth is literally reshaping us. As night fell, the facility's lights created an ethereal glow in the thin air. The staff gathered for their evening meal, sharing stories of storms tamed and disasters averted. Dr. Chen noticed how they spoke of weather patterns like old friends, challenging but familiar. Tomorrow, we'll show you the seed vaults, Director Raj said as they watched the sun set behind Mount Everest. Every plant species that might help humanity survive future climate shifts, preserved here in the clouds. Because that's another thing Earth taught us, today's survival tool might be tomorrow's salvation. In the growing darkness, the sky bridge's lights made it look like a constellation had descended to Earth. But it was more than just a triumph of engineering, it was proof that humanity had learned to thrive in places where even angels might fear to tread. You know what makes Earth truly dangerous? Director Raj asked, his eyes on the stars appearing above them. It's not just that we survive here, it's that we've learned to see beauty in the very things that should terrify us. These storms, these heights, these challenges, they're not our enemies anymore. They're our teachers, our partners in the greatest dance in the universe. As another tremor shook the facility, Dr. Chen made a final note in her research log. Perhaps Earth isn't the most dangerous world because of what it does to its inhabitants, but because of what it teaches them to become. The Antarctic Research Colony wasn't just a scientific outpost, it was humanity's testament to surviving in absolute extremes. Built within the ice itself, its crystalline structures descended hundreds of meters below the surface, creating a hidden world where humans thrived in temperatures that could freeze atmospheric gases. Dr. Chen and Kumar arrived as the long polar night was beginning, a 6-month period of darkness that would challenge any species' will to survive. Their transport pod docked with the colony's upper level, ice crystals already forming on its outer hull. Welcome to the bottom of the world, greeted Chief Researcher Luna, her dark eyes bright with the peculiar energy common to those who chose to live in Earth's most isolated region. "You've arrived just in time for the darkening ceremony." The colony's main atrium was a marvel of bioengineering. Massive light arrays mimicked natural sunlight, supporting gardens that shouldn't have been possible in such an environment. But it was the people that caught Dr. Chen's attention. They moved with a unique rhythm, their bodies adapted to life in perpetual winter. "Most think Antarctica is lifeless," Luna explained as they walked through hydroponic sections where plants grew in spiraling patterns, maximizing exposure to artificial light. "But Earth's greatest secrets are hidden in extremes. Watch." She led them to a research chamber where scientists were studying something extraordinary: microorganisms found deep within the ice, life forms that had survived millions of years in suspended animation. "These little survivors are teaching us how to push the boundaries of human adaptation," Luna continued, displaying holographic models of cellular structures. "Every year, we discover new extremophiles that challenge our understanding of what's possible." Their tour was interrupted by a low, resonating tone that seemed to come from the ice itself. The colony's residents immediately began moving with practiced efficiency, their faces showing excitement rather than concern. "The ice is shifting," Kumar noted, checking his tactical displays. "The whole shelf is on the move." Luna smiled, leading them to a circular chamber filled with sophisticated monitoring equipment. "This is why we're really here. Antarctica isn't just a continent, it's Earth's thermostat. When it moves, the whole planet feels it." The chamber's walls came alive with data streams showing real-time measurements from throughout the ice shelf. Dr. Chen watched in fascination as operators coordinated with teams around the world, their actions precise and deliberate. "Remember the weather systems you saw at the Sky Bridge?" Luna asked. "They begin here, in the interaction between ice and ocean. We're not just observing, we're learning to speak Earth's oldest language." What happened next demonstrated why Earth's classification as the most dangerous world went beyond mere physical hazards. The colony's residents began what they called the ice dance, a complex operation that worked with the shifting ice shelf rather than against it. Massive thermal regulators activated beneath the ice, their energy signatures pulsing in harmony with the natural movements. Quantum sensors monitored every microscopic crack and strain, feeding data to predictive models that had evolved from decades of observation. "Most species would see this as a threat," Luna explained, gesturing to the moving ice masses on their displays. "We've learned to see it as an opportunity. Each shift reveals new data, new patterns, new possibilities." Dr. Chen's scientific curiosity was piqued by a series of readings from deep ice cores. "These samples, they're telling Earth's story." "More than that," Luna responded, leading them to a secure laboratory where ice cores were stored in quantum-stabilized containers. "They're telling humanity's story. Each layer is a page in Earth's diary, showing how our planet responded to changes over millions of years. And here's the fascinating part, we're not just reading the diary anymore. We're learning to write in it." The laboratory contained something extraordinary, an experimental chamber where scientists were attempting to create artificial ice cores, essentially programming Earth's climate memory. It was an audacious project that showed how humans had moved beyond mere survival to actively engaging with their planet's most fundamental systems. "The ice remembers," Luna said, her voice taking on a reverent tone. "Every climate shift, every atmospheric change, every adaptation that life made to survive, it's all recorded here. By understanding these records, we're learning to guide Earth's future." As the polar night deepened outside, the colony's internal systems created an artificial day-night cycle that kept its residents connected to natural rhythms. But it was more than just environmental control, it was a statement about humanity's relationship with extreme environments. A group of children passed by, engaged in what looked like a game but was actually a complex training exercise in ice navigation and survival protocols. They used hand signals developed by generations of Antarctic researchers, their movements showing an intuitive understanding of their frozen world. That's what makes Earth dangerous, Kumar observed, watching the children. Not just the extreme conditions, but how we've learned to make them part of our identity. These kids don't fear the ice, they speak its language. The colony shuddered again as another ice shift sent vibrations through the structure. But instead of causing panic, it triggered a synchronized response that showed how deeply humans had integrated with their environment. Sensors adjusted, supports flexed, and the entire colony moved with the ice like a dancer following their partner's lead. "Tomorrow, we'll show you the deep stations," Luna said as they watched the ice patterns on monitoring displays. "Places where we're learning to harvest geothermal energy from beneath the ice sheet. Because that's another lesson Earth taught us, sometimes the greatest resources are hidden in the most dangerous places." Dr. Chen made detailed notes about how the colony's residents had adapted both physically and psychologically to their extreme environment. Their eyes had developed enhanced sensitivity to light variations, their bodies had adjusted to the pressure changes caused by ice movements, and their minds had embraced the rhythm of long darkness and eternal ice. "You know what's truly remarkable?" Luna asked as they observed the colony's night shift beginning their work. "We're not just surviving here, we're discovering who we really are." Earth's extreme environments strip away everything non-essential, leaving only the core of human resilience. And that core keeps surprising us with its strength. As the artificial day cycle dimmed to simulate evening, the colony's lights created an aurora-like display on the ice walls. In this hidden world beneath the Antarctic surface, humanity had once again proved that Earth's most hostile environments could become cradles of innovation and adaptation. Perhaps, Dr. Chen noted in her research log, Earth's true danger lies not in its ability to threaten life, but in its capacity to transform it. In choosing to dance with the ice rather than flee from it, humans have turned one of their planet's deadliest regions into a laboratory for the future of their species. The Global Emergency Response Center, hidden deep within the bedrock of the Rocky Mountains, was humanity's ultimate testament to survival. Unlike the specialized adaptations Dr. Chen had witnessed in other locations, this facility represented something far more profound, the coordination of all human resilience into a single, unified force. "This is where everything comes together," Kumar explained as they descended in a gravity lift. Every data point from New Shanghai's underwater districts, every thermal reading from New Phoenix, every atmospheric pattern from the Sky Bridge, and every ice measurement from Antarctica, it all flows here. The central command chamber took Dr. Chen's breath away. The circular room was dominated by a massive holographic display of Earth, showing real-time data from every corner of the planet. Natural disasters that would have ended civilizations were being monitored, managed, and even harnessed with practiced precision. Commander Yuki, the facility's leader, greeted them with calm efficiency. Her neural interfaces pulsed with constant data streams, yet she moved with the relaxed confidence of someone who had made chaos management into an art form. "You're just in time," she said, gesturing to a cluster of warning indicators appearing over the Pacific Rim. "We're about to witness something unprecedented, a convergence of multiple threat patterns." The holographic display zoomed in to show a cascade of emerging disasters, a massive tectonic shift threatening the underwater cities, a thermal surge advancing toward the desert settlements, a rogue atmospheric pattern challenging the Sky Bridge's control, and rapid ice deterioration near the Antarctic colony. In the past, any one of these events would have been catastrophic, Commander Yuki explained, her hands dancing through holographic control interfaces. Now they're an opportunity to demonstrate why Earth's children have become the most adaptable species in the known universe. Dr. Chen watched in amazement as the facility's response unfolded. Instead of treating each disaster as a separate threat, the humans approached them as interconnected parts of Earth's complex dance. "Initiate protocol harmony," Commander Yuki ordered, her voice carrying the weight of generations of survival knowledge. The command chamber erupted into coordinated activity as operators began what could only be described as a planetary-scale orchestra of survival. The underwater cities of New Shanghai didn't just brace for the tectonic shift, they used the seismic energy to power enhanced shield systems. The excess energy was channeled through subsea corridors to New Phoenix, where it was converted into a protective barrier against the approaching thermal surge. "Watch this," Kumar said with pride as the Sky Bridge teams began their part of the response. The atmospheric processors weren't fighting the rogue weather pattern, they were reshaping it, turning its destructive potential into a controlled force that actually helped stabilize the Antarctic ice formations. "Your species has evolved beyond mere survival," Dr. Chen realized, her scientific instruments struggling to keep up with the complexity of human coordination. "You've turned Earth's entire dangerous nature into a resource." Commander Yuki nodded, her eyes fixed on the global display. "We learned that Earth's threats aren't isolated events. They're parts of a larger conversation our planet is having with itself. Once we learn to listen to that conversation, we could begin participating in it." The next hours revealed the true depth of human adaptation. Children in schools across the planet were calmly following enhanced safety protocols while continuing their lessons. Communities that would have once panicked were instead executing complex cooperative strategies that turned potential disasters into opportunities for growth. "Look here," Commander Yuki pointed to a data stream showing real-time genetic analysis. "Each crisis triggers subtle adaptations in our population. Earth isn't just challenging us, it's teaching us how to evolve." A sudden alert drew their attention to a new phenomenon. The combined effects of the multiple disasters had created something never before recorded, a quantum-level resonance in Earth's electromagnetic field. "This is it," Commander Yuki breathed, her expression showing excitement rather than fear. "The moment we've been preparing for. All stations, initiate Genesis Protocol." What happened next demonstrated why Earth truly deserved its classification as the most dangerous world in the universe. Instead of trying to suppress the quantum resonance, humanity embraced it. Every facility they had visited, the underwater cities, the desert towers, the mountain bridges, and the ice colonies, began working in perfect synchronization. "We're not just surviving anymore," Kumar explained to Dr. Chen as they watched the worldwide response unfold. "We're learning to speak Earth's quantum language. Each disaster teaches us new words, each crisis adds to our vocabulary." The holographic display showed something extraordinary. The combined human response was creating patterns that matched Earth's natural rhythms. Disaster response had evolved into a planetary-scale dance of cooperation between humanity and their world. "This is why other species find Earth so dangerous," Commander Yuki said, her voice filled with quiet pride. "Not because of what it does to us, but because of what it has taught us to become. We're no longer just inhabitants of a dangerous world, we're its partners in an endless dance of evolution." Dr. Chen's final research notes struggled to capture the full implications of what she had witnessed. The children in New Shanghai's underwater classrooms, the heat harvesters of New Phoenix, the storm shepherds of the Sky Bridge, the ice dancers of Antarctica, they were all part of a larger pattern, a new form of life that had emerged from Earth's crucible of danger. "You know what makes Earth truly unique?" Commander Yuki asked as the crisis response reached its culmination. "It's not just that it's dangerous, it's that it created a species that learned to love the danger, to dance with it, to grow stronger with each challenge. We didn't just adapt to Earth's dangers, we learned to speak their language." As the multiple threats subsided, transformed by human intervention into constructive forces, Dr. Chen realized she needed to revise Earth's classification in the galactic database. It wasn't just the most dangerous world in the universe, it was the most transformative, a planet that had shaped its children into something the universe had never seen before. The facility's lights dimmed as systems returned to normal monitoring status, but the implications of what she had witnessed would ripple through the galaxy. Earth wasn't dangerous because it threatened life, it was dangerous because it had created a form of life that refused to accept limitations, that saw challenges as opportunities, and that had learned to dance with the very forces that should have destroyed them. "Tomorrow will bring new challenges," Commander Yuki said, her eyes on the spinning holographic globe. "And we'll be ready." Because that's what Earth taught us, there's no such thing as an ultimate adaptation, only the next step in an endless dance of evolution. As Dr. Chen prepared her final report for the Galactic Council, she added one last observation: Earth remains classified as the most dangerous world in the universe, not for what it is, but for what it creates, a species that has learned to transform danger into destiny, fear into force, and survival into an art form that the rest of the universe is only beginning to understand.